vibe at Gilman, right, which was about mindfuck, like mindfuck. Didn't we have a mindfuck committee? I think we had a mindfuck committee that was like explicitly to like get people out of their like ruts or whatever, like get people out of whatever modes that they were in the punk scene, right, and create something different. So I think the Yeastie Girlz, it definitely wasn't an accident that the Yeastie Girlz came out of that, right? It came out of this environment where that was encouraged.
I'm Colin Burrows, and this is the Woodstein Media Podcast, episode 19. This podcast is produced on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Anishinaabe, and Odawa peoples. This episode is part 1 of 2, featuring the Yeastie Girlz, Cammie, Joyce, Jane, and Kate. The Yeastie Girlz formed in 1987 at the now infamous Gilman Street project in Berkeley, California. Shortly after their impromptu debut, they ended up releasing a song on MAXIMUMROCKNROLL's Turn It Around compilation and an EP on Lookout Records. Their sound differed from most of the music associated with either of those punk rock institutions. They weren't playing hardcore or gritty punk rock or the ska-infused sounds of Operation Ivy or the popular sounds Green Day made Lookout Records notorious for. There was no backing music on their record, and as they described it on the EP and at their shows,
we're doing live vaginacore, acapella rap. We're doing live vaginacore, acapella rap.
This was my first time having 4 guests on the podcast simultaneously. Perhaps it would be easier for listeners if it was video, but I think you'll be able to follow the action. The conversation was great, and it was packed with amazing stories, so I've split it into 2 episodes. This podcast and Woodstein Media are independently produced journalism that you can support through Patreon or by donating through PayPal at woodstein.ca. That's WOODSTEIN.ca. Thanks for your interest and support. If you enjoy this podcast, you can support it by listening to more episodes and liking, sharing, subscribing, or reviewing them. This is very helpful and appreciated.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good afternoon from New York.
Oh, good afternoon.
How thrilling to see everybody.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, Colin.
Nice to meet you. I was just telling Jane how interesting it is for me because until YouTube, I was listening to your record and I never really knew what any of you looked like. It was all kind of long distance blind relationship kind of. But it always fascinated me. Your music or your raps always stood out from other stuff that I was listening to. So it was amazing.
I think it's safe to say we're pretty original. I mean, in the punk scene. I think in the punk scene especially.
Yeah.
I never know what to call it. Is it our music? Is it our rap? Is it our words? You know.
Yeah, there's this whole debate going on the internet and YouTube comments of like younger people saying, no, this it's what do they call it? It's slam poetry. It's slam poetry.
Oh.
That's what it is. And it's like, it wasn't really.
That
really
wasn't a thing. I don't think that was even a thing in 1987.
Some people decided it's slam poetry.
Never heard of it.
I think it might have been in certain circles. Like it might have been a thing already, but it's not people who were around then who were saying it. It's people who more recently discovered slam poetry who are then applying that lens to where we were. I mean, you know, because it doesn't really fit in, people don't know what to make of it. So they're just trying to find a label for it, but there really isn't, because we came out of the punk scene, but it wasn't punk music, but it was a punk vibe. It was punk,
Punk inspired for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's safe to say we were all punks.
Yeah,
I mean,
like from a
I think-
distance, it happened in one of those places that is now worshipped by punks around the globe because, Gilman Street did this. And that's where you guys, the birth of it kind of happened because you had that fertile ground to do it in too, I think. It wouldn't have happened a lot of other places, I think.
Right.
Hmm.
Are we in the
Wallpaper.
interview now, by the way, or are we just chatting?
No,
before the
we
interview?
weren't. But
Because
I
I feel
think
like
there's
once
some-
we start talking about all this stuff, we might as well be doing it in the interview.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But, like,
I
and
want to see your wallpaper and I want to see your books. Wait. Sorry. No, it's
Yes,
okay. I can do it with my phone.
okay,
It's all happening. Thank you.
all right. What is
Now you're worried about being judged.
I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
I see direct
too
action there.
embarrassing?
Is that what I'm reading?
direct action? Yeah, that's
Okay, cool.
okay.
Thumbs up for direct action. I don't know the book, but the concept.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
good. No,
That was-
that's
Sorry
fine.
about
I was already telling Jane. I found your record, the 7-inch, in a record store near my little town, and I bought it just because of the Lookout logo and the Buzzcocks cover. But when I got it home, it was way different than anything else I had listened to. But it resonated with me because I love ideas in music, and that's all there was. I mean, there was no guitar solos to get in the way or make it more palatable. So I kind of know this story from reading about it on your website, but I want to find out about how it got started. How did you start? I know you leaped up before Crimshrine set, but can you tell me the story of how you started?
Yeah. Jane, you want to start with that?
I was going to suggest that you start, Cammie. But you tell it well.
Well, I think that the story starts with Jane because Jane came up with the name. I don't know. What was the circumstances that you came up with the name originally?
I don't know. I came up with the name and then it was just kind of percolating in my head. And then it came to life connecting with you guys at that show at Gilman, which was wasn't that like a 2-day barbecue basketball tournament show?
I think it felt
of
like
July.
2 days. It felt
I
like
think
2 days,
so.
but it
Yeah.
was one whole day, vegan barbecue, whatever, a million bands.
I think it was vegan and meat, right? Because wasn't it like the vegan team and the meat team played off in the basketball? Plus, you got to know for the
Oh my
basketball
God.
for the basketball tournament at Gilman, basketball at Gilman used. Do you know what Foursquare balls are? Like they're super bouncy rubber balls.
The red rubber, yeah.
But they're really bouncy. So that's what we used. So one would get hurt because the basketball hoop was inside the club. So it was like where everybody was like hanging out and moshing. So that was the ball that was used. And so people would come thinking they knew how to play basketball and they'd be like, shooting these hoops and it just bounces right off because,
Yeah.
like totally different.
I don't
So-
even remember any of that part.
yeah.
At
Well, so
all.
what's cool about that and how that connects to the Yeastie Girlz is just the vibe at Gilman, right? Which was about mindfuck. Didn't we have a mindfuck committee? I think we had a
Mhm.
committee that was like explicitly to like get people out of their like ruts or whatever, like get people out of whatever modes that they were in the punk scene, right? And create something different. So I think the Yeastie Girlz, it definitely wasn't an accident that the Yeastie Girlz came out of that, right? It came out of this environment where that was encouraged. Like it was encouraged to do different things. I used to hand out carrots at the shows, like randomly. I would like go buy a bag of organic carrots and like hand out carrots to people and people would just be munching on carrots. It was like totally random, but it was also
yeah.
totally acceptable to be totally random.
And it developed a culture of goofy punks. So the
Yes.
pits, not always. I mean, there were some intense pits, but when the goofy punks were in force, it was like the silliest mosh pits you've ever seen, with like people cuddling, like suddenly everyone would lie down and cuddle, or funny walks, or I mean, it was a really cool environment for creativity. And that's what we came out of, was this place where it was okay to be yourself and be weird, and like be even weird by punk standards, you know what I mean? Like we were not cool, we were nerds, we were punk nerds, and we were having fun. And so out of that, I think that sort of is the fertile ground for the Yeastie Girlz to happen. So Jane brings this name to this. We were all at this show, and by all I mean me, Joyce, and Jane, because Kate comes in later. And Jane and I, this is my memory, and also all of our memories are bad, but we pieced together.
Very bad, very bad.
But we've managed to piece together stuff that one person remembers, the other one doesn't. And I remember this as me and Jane standing there, and she says, we should start a band called the Yeastie Girlz. And we were having a discussion probably about yeast infections, because that's what you do. And but also the Beastie Boys were suddenly just like so huge right then, and they were even being played at Gilman Street over the PA between bands and stuff, and their music was so misogynist. Like, it was stuff about rape and stuff about girls to clean my bathroom, and like, it was gross, right? Mm-hmm. And also, even though our scene was so cool, it also wasn't very how do I say this? I mean, I never felt threatened by the friends and punks there. Sometimes the assholes that would come, and be dicks in the mosh pit weren't necessarily from our Gilman scene. But there weren't very many women, and there certainly weren't very many women on stage. So it was kind of like worshiping the boys with their guitars on stage. And I think maybe, and girls, you can correct me, but it seems like a lot of times the women stood in the back.
Yeah, for many reasons, but certainly because a lot of the times that mosh pit was kind of scary. So
I don't think it stopped you, Joyce, did it?
Maybe a little bit, but no, yeah.
I enjoyed the mosh pit, but it was definitely macho.
Yeah. Depending on the bands, I think.
Yeah, depending on the bands, but also, I just want to say, like, that scene that Cammie described so beautifully of, like, nerdy punk and goofy pit and all of that. I mean, that was very intentional, because Gilman came out of a reaction to a very harder than hard scene with a lot of skinheads, including a lot of fascist skinheads and a lot of violence. And so Gilman was a reaction to that, right? But so here's the thing, that scene, that goofy scene, was still a male-dominated goofy scene. There was a male goofy energy that really dominated, which doesn't mean women weren't, welcome to do goofy stuff. Like, I handed out carrots or whatever, like, we could do stuff, but the energy was definitely this, like, very much teenage boys, who didn't know what to do with their energy and were basically, like, scared of girls, or like, didn't know how to interact with girls or whatever. So there was like a vibe of that. And I'm not saying it was everyone, but it was just a sort of general energy, was very much boy energy, even though it wasn't a macho energy necessarily most of the time, right? But there was still a very gendered element to it. So I think that was, and then I think, like, also, Cammie was saying around the Beastie Boys, so the name came out of that. And then I think a certain kind of flipping the script came out of that, of like this whole thing of like, okay, these, like, well, the Beastie Boys also came out of a punk scene, right? So they came out of a punk scene, and they did this like white boy rap thing, where even though in a way they didn't take themselves seriously, but they obviously were taking themselves seriously, because they took it to this whole other level and became really famous and really huge. And so we were kind of saying, like, that's bullshit, right? And we're making fun of that. At the same time, we were reacting to the thing in the punk scene. So I think both things were kind of happening simultaneously, that, the whole rap thing of like, there's a rap thing of like, oh yeah, I'm so tough and I'm so this and I'm so that, like a arrogance, right? That is, you know, sort of naturally a part of a lot of rap stuff. And the Beastie Boys kind of took that and played with it, you know, in a weird way. And we were like, all right, let's flip that and have it, you know, women doing that, but like with, you know, whatever we think is going to gross people out, you know. So
it was like a reaction. Yeah, totally. It was like a reaction to my dick's so big. All of that stuff was so prevalent in the music then, maybe still now, but really prevalent then. And so we're like, okay, your dick's so big, my fucking ovaries will kick your ass, you know. But getting back to the story, so then Jane and I laughed about the name Yeastie Girlz. And then she runs off and sits in a corner and writes an actual song right there and then at this show. And then later, Joyce and I are standing around and she comes up and goes, all right, you guys, I wrote this song. This is how I remember it. And let's get up on stage and sing it. And I remember being like, what? Oh my God. So we practiced it. Joyce, do you have any memory of this?
Oh my
moment?
God. I do remember. I remember being terrified to get up on stage. I remember just holding that piece of paper in my hand with the lyrics, pretty much just covering my face, you know, and reading off of it as we try to rap our new song that Jane wrote. And it was invigorating. It was that first time up there, you know, having the guys just like freak out, boo and hiss at you, you know, but we stood our ground and we did it. And, you know, I think that for the most part, it was really well received, you know. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, it was super scary. So that was my memory of just being terrified up there, you know. So yeah, and we have a video of it, and watching the video is just hilarious because we were obviously terrified, but also it was Joyce, like what Joyce says, it was empowering and invigorating. Because like finally we've taken the stage from the boys and they can't fucking handle it. Like this is actually more punk than the punkest guys up here. Totally.
Because suddenly the men and I say men, I mean, were they men? They were like, you know, 15 years old or something.
Some of them were men, but some of them were children, literally children. So.
They you know, to suddenly hit on this thing of like, shit, we've just found something that's more punk than all of y'all combined, and you can't handle it. So wow, we got to double down.
It scared the shit out of them. Us talking about our pussies and our yeast infections was terrifying. So
for those of you who couldn't see that, Joyce just put 2 middle fingers up.
Too fun.
So that's our origin story.
Okay. Wow.
The myth.
Okay. There's a couple things right in that like you were talking about how scary it was to get up there and the reaction, and that you scared the audience in a way just because of the content of the songs. I've heard, especially on that Yeastie Girlz versus the Mentors, which I don't understand how they were playing there. I guess that's proof that it wasn't exactly what we thought it was from miles away, that they were even allowed to be playing there.
I agree.
So
that was weird.
Yeah, the reaction from that audience, you can hear it on that recording. I hear it now and I'm terrified for you. Because I know people like that. I mean, I'm not a perfect guy, but I hope to hell I was never like that. But I hear that, and was it scary at those moments? Because you seem to keep going and you stood your ground in these situations, which is fascinating. I didn't get to hear those concerts back when I was first listening to your record, but it gives me it renews my respect for you, hearing the way you handled those situations. I think this is a question.
Only if you're lucky. Well, I was waiting at the bus stop the other day. I met a guy named Lilo. He's a major babe. But before I let my sloppy juices burst, there's something that I gotta say to him first. I say I wanna fuck you now, but first we better talk about a little piece of rubber that fits on your cock. The only thing about fucking that makes me afraid is I don't wanna get pregnant. I don't wanna get AIDS. So those two reasons are enough for me. So I'm telling you to take responsibility. You say you used it once before, but didn't like the way they felt. So put a lid on it, boy, right now or else. A lot of you guys have a problem right now. You just wanna get laid, but you don't know how. If you wanna change your look and change it fast, put a rubber on your dick without being asked. Unless you wanna sit at home masturbating, wear a rubber every time without complaining. It's your damn sperm juice that's all the trouble. Put a lid on it, boy, on the double. There's a whole lot of ways to have sexual fun. The old in out is not the only one. You can kiss me, you can suck me, you can finger me too. But you better wear a rubber if you wanna screw. You know I wanna fuck you, babe, a whole lot more. If getting you to wear a rubber wasn't such a chore. We're tired of being the ones that have to say, put a lid on it, boy, or go away. You better learn to use them right and make no mistakes. Otherwise some shit creep without a paddle in the brain. Don't expect your mom and dad to show you how. It's time to start practicing right now while I'm getting all excited and I'm ready to erupt. So whip it out, baby, and cover it up. Well, that's the end of this rap and there's nothing else to do, so put a lid on it, boy, and let's screw. Hey, you, quit throwing shit up here, man. Alright, this next song
On March 2nd, 1990, the Yeastie Girlz opened for the Mentors at Gilman Street. Performing at this show, the lineup was Joyce, Kate, and Cammie. This clip captures performances of the songs Put a Lid on It and Sperm Brain, and you get a chance to hear the misogynist energy the Mentors and their fans brought to the concert that night.
Yeah, we were tough as nails. That when I listen back, we were tough as nails that show.
Yeah.
There was also that Gigi Allen show that was confusing that existed as well.
At Gilman?
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I think there was something about the unity of it was always three of us or two of us, but there was a lot of strength in that.
Absolutely. I was going to say that I felt like we, and not just between the three of us, but we had our, you know, following, I guess, you know, our friends and people that believed in us and what we were doing. And so you always kind of felt like we had a community behind us. We had like our friends, you know, so it wasn't just the three of us standing there, but it was the people that believed in us that were standing with us too. So, so to stand up against somebody like El Duce, you know, El douchebag, sorry.
Joyce, we need to tell your story about what happened. I should put that on the website.
I was going to bring it up, you know, it was funny, you know, so there, you know, I felt personally, you know, confident and safe, but, you know, fast forward a few years and I ran into him at a bar that we used to go to. He was a total drunk dick, you know, and basically just hated me and threw a beer bottle at my face and chipped my tooth. So after, yeah, it was pretty gnarly, but I mean, it just solidified what a complete and total terrorist he was, you know. So I can't stand him. I mean, he's gone now, but he's a piece of shit.
Did he remember you as a Yeastie Girl then when he threw that at you?
I believe that's what it was. Yeah. So, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh well.
Wow.
And
sorry that happened to you.
That's
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be one of the more extreme things that have happened. You know, I mean, they used to happen at shows out in Germany when Kate and I and Cammie and I would go and do a few shows here and there. There were some really aggressive punks that just didn't get it. And I think also the language barrier, but you know, all they saw was just a couple of women telling them that, you know, that they were pieces of shit and
or to grab onto their vaginas.
Yeah. And
it was also the freedom that we were espousing, you know, as it were, of being who we unfettered, who we were.
Yeah.
Because there was definitely the language barrier.
But yeah, so anyway, I mean, you know, there was several times where you had to defend yourself physically, you know, from some of these guys.
I think there was a lot of what I remember was being on stage and looking down and seeing young women or girls or female seeming characters that the look in their eyes, then you could tell they couldn't believe what we were doing. You couldn't believe what we were saying. And I had the feeling that they were never going to be the same again. And we had given them this thing that they could hold.
Empowerment.
Yeah. And that loop then was so strong that you're like, okay, you know, maybe there's some unfortunate individual over here saying or doing this, but that was extraordinary. So
I think especially You Suck, I think was really helpful and empowering. Like I hear stories from people now saying, oh my God, that song gave me license to, you know, gave me the strength to turn around to my sexual partner and go, okay, hang on a sec. You know,
Yeah.
I've been sucking your dick all this time. Now it's your turn to go down on me. And like, that was radical. That was, maybe even it's still radical. So, you know, well, there's
Probably.
a lot more women singing stuff like that now. So
Yeah.
we were definitely groundbreakers in that regard, I think.
Okay.
100%.
I missed all of the shows like with the you're describing with the aggression, but just in terms of what you just said, Cammie, yeah, I think also just it's different now, right? But like at that moment that we emerged, it really was taboo, even just for women among themselves, to talk about periods. And I mean, even just like basic stuff that is not taboo anymore. Like, you know, now there's like whole campaigns at universities to stock menstrual products in the bathrooms for free. That did not exist. Like people were not, you know, everything was secret. You were like,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
or whatever.
Oh
you know.
my God.
I mean, it was like, it was a very like, I don't know if it was because of the Reagan era or what, but there was like this whole puritanical thing in the 80s. And it was just not done to talk about bodily functions, and especially female bodily functions. And so I think that was also just very like, I mean, it was shocking to people, but it definitely like broke down some barriers around that for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was just the Reagan era. Because I think that was more international, because even where I was growing up, I've heard stories from friends that are similar to that. They can relate to that. And
Yeah, I just don't know politically if it was because I feel like in the 70s, you know, there was this whole movement for women to learn about their bodies. You know, there was the book Our Bodies Ourselves, you know, the late 60s and the early 70s. Like there was a movement, and then the late 70s, you know, the feminine, like there was a lot going on around that. But I feel like it clamped down in the early 80s at some point. And so, you know, which is not to say that it, you know, not to say that the movement in the 70s was perfect, but I feel like, because for example, when we started doing our Yeastie Girlz thing, we met this woman who, she was the one who actually interviewed us for Maximum Rock and Roll, who had been a sort of feminist sex educator in the 70s, going around to schools wearing a giant vagina vulva costume, right? And teaching kids like where all the parts were. Like that would not have happened in the 80s. And she wasn't doing it in the 80s. She had done it in the 70s. And now her vagina costume was unused. So she gave it to us. And Joyce wore it on stage. And we did a whole thing around it. But like, you know, I feel like there was a sort, you know, things. I think sometimes people think that, you know, political movements, it's all just like this sort of progressive trajectory. And it comes in waves, you know. And I think
it
there
really
was
does.
a movement in the 70s. And then there was a kind of puritanical clamp down in the 80s. Whether it had to do with Reagan or not, I don't know. Maybe Reagan was a product of that puritanical clamp down. I don't know. But, you know, I think that the 80s was like a particular time for that.
yeah. And I'll kind of walk back part of what I said there, because a lot of what happens like with your politics does splash over and affect our politics here. So it wasn't exactly
Sorry about
Reagan wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's north or south, it's well, I was just going to talk about the Alex Bennett thing for a sec, about how we couldn't say Tampax, and then it went to finger. We couldn't say finger. And he was scared about his ratings. He was scared that the sponsors would stop supporting. We did this radio show, like it was like very popular. I don't know if it was AM radio, but
No, it was an FM rock station, I think. And he had the morning show. But he also he wanted to have us on. He had 4 non-blondes on that day as well, I think. So he tried to be progressive, and yet he was terrified, and he kept hitting the button to, you know, erase things that we had just said, and finger, because it was a verb, was one of them.
And of course we were like vaguely clueless. We were like, really? You can't say, you know, really? And he's like mad hitting the button.
Yeah, can't say
like,
tampon.
It was like tampon could be, you know, a product for sale, but it couldn't be something that Cammie was using as a tambone.
Before we do our last song, I wanted to share something with everybody.
You have an applicator for a female hygiene device.
Right. I can't say tampon?
No.
Oh. Okay, I won't. Well, a while back, it's kind of a long story, but before a show one time I was just kind of playing with one of these. I can't say that? I can't say that?
You already did.
Oh, okay.
So.
I was playing with the tampon, and it occurred
So we
to me...
snuck around it. Just let it lie. We got it out.
Okay. It occurred to me that it's possible to play one of these. So I'm gonna play a little song for you. It's an old Black Sabbath song. It's called Iron Man.
This is also educational too, because here's something else you can do with these things besides what you thought you could do with them.
That's right. And all you have to do is stick one of your fingers in the bottom. You have to use the cardboard kind.
The big kind too.
The big kind.
Get the missile size.
Right. Stick your finger in the smaller end and blow in the top end as though it were like a.
By the way, in New Jersey, the number is 555-7272. It's contestants number 3. Okay.
As though it were like a bottle or a flute. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what it sounds like. And now let me give this a try here. There you go.
I mean, it was all we were so thoroughly confused by this that we just kept saying it. I go, like, really? You can't say it?
Okay. So that was like a commercial radio station you were on?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was like a college radio station interview when I heard it. That puts that in a new light.
Yeah, maybe I should put that on the website.
Yeah. Wow.
Do it, Cammie.
Alex Bennett.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You've talked about this a little bit, but as you started performing away from the Gilman scene, and we've already established, I guess, that the Gilman scene wasn't all it was cracked up to be in some ways. But was there more of the kind of sexism leveled at you? Like I read the story of Fresno you went to play that got in the was there more of that sort of reaction as you moved away from your home scene? Or
Fresno was an extreme example, I think. I don't remember ever getting that kind of response. Do you guys do? I don't know if Fresno is sort of like a California farming town, and so going out there, was it with MDC? No, it was
Capital Punishment.
Capital Punishment.
But Dave from MDC came with us. I think he rented the car.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Down there, because I remember driving. That my main memory from that is driving back, because everybody else fell asleep. And I was driving back, and Dave MDC was trying to keep me awake by just rambling on and on and on and on about himself. And I love the guy. He's a lovely, sweet person, and he was a huge Yeastie Girlz fan. But I was dying. I was like, I am going to fall asleep on Interstate 5 right now. And then we got pulled over by the cops, and I got a speeding ticket. I was doing 75 with what do you call the autopilot thing?
Oh, yeah.
75, and I got a speeding ticket. Anyway,
that's hilarious.
My memory. It has nothing to do with anything that happened at the show. But I just wanted to say that we didn't actually, I mean, except for Cammie and Joyce and Kate in various combinations doing stuff in Europe, like these little tours in Europe, we didn't do we didn't do a national tour of the Yeastie Girlz. So it's not like there's a huge body of shows within the US to kind of compare to Gilman Street, right? It was like a few scattered shows. There wasn't like a tour, except for, like I said, the ones in Europe. So which then was different, because then there was the language barrier, and there's, all kinds of with that.
Yeah. We played a lot of shows in the Bay Area, which is a bubble, really. It's not Fresno. And I think that we were pretty well received. So we should probably say to the people who don't know about what happened in Fresno, it was a lot of angry men. I'd say. And they were there for the punk rock, and we get up on stage and they just could not handle it, and they were throwing stuff at us. It was the day that I learned how to play music on a tampon applicator, so of course I brought that out, and then I was throwing tampons at people, and man, they just were angry men.
We should have been like, you know how in the, this is so stupid, but in the Blues Brothers movie where they're playing behind a like chicken wire. That's what we should have been doing, playing behind chicken wire.
We played a show at the Julia Morgan Theater, which is, I mean, that was probably the most mature audience we've ever played to. Like, and they're all sitting in seats.
Yeah.
And we opened for Jello Biafra, doing spoken word. So it was all people who'd come there to hear Jello talk about himself, you know, and that was like the most well-behaved show probably ever.
It was the
polite claps.
or the how did they get here?
Bravo.
That's another side. There's not always, I don't listen to all your live stuff and go, wow, that was terrifying. Sometimes the interaction with the audience is amazing. I read one of you said it was kind of like doing comedy, and that sort of interaction, as opposed to the almost violent reaction that you sometimes got. There's also a lot of camaraderie with you and the audience.
Oh, for sure.
And especially at Gilman, but I mean, yeah, in other places as well. But yeah, I mean, so my favorite example of that, what you're talking about, the interaction, is on the demo tape, which is where we did this breakdown version of the original Yeastie Girlz rap, where we kept interrupting each other and stopping. And like, you know, we say, we put things in your, you know, so we'd say, oh, you know, we don't say thank you and we don't say please. And then Joyce would be like, wait, I do say please, you know. So we were like doing this whole, like, that was kind of like a comedy routine, although we didn't think of it that way when we were doing it. It was just anything to do. But then when we got to the part where we put things in our vaginas that you wouldn't believe, and we were like, oh, well, that's true. And then somehow we started getting people to just shout out from the audience things that they put in their vaginas. We added,
oh my God, that was so funny.
Right. And so then all kinds of people shouting out things that they put in their vaginas and assholes. If anybody had stopped for a second to think, do I really want everyone, 200 plus people in this room, to know what I'm putting in my vagina when I masturbate, they would have been like, no way, no, I don't want that. But it was like this energy in the moment that we just, you know, and it wasn't planned. It wasn't like we didn't think like this is what's going to happen. It was just like, it just happened in the moment, and everybody's shouting stuff out. Todd from Bitch Fight is like, drumsticks, and Cammie's like, oh, Todd from Bitch Fight, drumsticks, and you can hear it all on the tape. It's pretty amazing to me. You know, that was definitely I think a highlight of what the Yeastie Girlz was capable of.
All right, here we go. This is our last one.
It may sound familiar at first, but it's not. Yeah.
We're the Yeastie Girlz and we got yeast power. We don't shave our armpits and we don't shower.
I took a shower yesterday.
I took one today. I shaved my armpits yesterday.
Oh my God! Wait, no.
Hold on.
Oh my God! It's true. I'm so embarrassed.
But
hey, I took a shower yesterday.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Forget about that.
Okay, yeah. Let's just go on with the song. Okay, forget it.
We don't say thank you and we don't say please.
I just can't honestly say that that's true.
I always say thank you. I always say
yeah.
We said thank you in the last song.
We just said thank you just a minute ago.
Okay, so that's a lie too.
Okay, forget it. What's the next line?
We put things in our vaginas that you wouldn't believe.
Okay, that's true. Yeah,
this is very true.
Here, do we have any stories here? What's the most amazing thing you've ever put in your vagina?
Carrots.
All right, carrots. I'll vouch for that.
Cucumbers. Cucumbers are great.
Okay, anything else? Cigars.
Woo!
Whoa, Lydia.
Yeast power.
Anything else here? Any other? Squid. Ooh, that sounds good. Live or dead?
Ooh, a live
Cooked
squid.
or raw? Anything else? Rita.
Buick.
Yeah.
Walter has put a vagina in his Buick. I mean, Chloe. Isn't that what you said? I mean, never mind.
Anybody else have any good stories about things you put in your vaginas? Come on, out with it. It's time to tell the truth. Does anybody put anything really, really amazing in your vagina?
The phone.
Phone, yeah.
How about a stick shift? You ever be sitting in your car waiting for somebody for hours, eyeing your stick shift like, ooh, yeah. Well, okay, I've done that.
We've all done that. That's nothing. Electric toothbrush. That's a good one. How's that for improvising on a vibrator? Sounds good. Drumsticks.
Woo!
Yeah.
From Bitch Fight.
How
From
many
Bitch
at a
Fight.
time?
How many can you put in your vagina?
12 at a time.
Woo!
A dozen.
Give her
A dozen drumsticks.
Woo! 1 dozen.
What size drumsticks? Okay, up your asses.
What
What's
have you
the
put
most
up your
amazing
butts?
thing?
Living in Washington, D.C., and I did it with a carrot, and it went into the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue near my house. Threw it out, almost hit a car.
All right.
All right.
Good
True
story.
confessions right here.
Does anybody else have any good up your ass stories? Nobody's gonna admit it, you know? What is this?
We're not your babies and we're not your dolls, and we don't give a shit about your blue balls. Don't care about your biceps, don't care about your dick, and when you open up your mouth, you make us all feel sick. We're the Yeastie Girlz, and we got yeast infections. Our yeast is so tough, we don't need contraception.
Wait a minute. I wish that was true.
Well, yeah.
It's not.
I mean, if my yeast was, oh man, that'd be great if I didn't have to use
It would almost be worth
My
having a
yeast
yeast
was-
infection.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, if
Almost.
you didn't have
The
to
pain is
hassle
not
with the
quite
pill,
it.
you didn't have to hassle with
How
the
many people have yeast
diaphragm.
infections right now? Raise
Come
your
on.
hand if you have a yeast
There's one in the
infection.
back. All right. Lydia,
All right.
Lydia
Lydia
has one.
actually has one.
All right.
Thank
Walter,
God.
Walter.
Isn't it
He's
fun?
got one. He's got
Mhm.
one. Great.
Yeah, he always
Good
has
job.
one. It's true.
We're happy and we're proud to be women, don't you know? So if it grosses you out, just get the hell up and go. We're the Yeastie Girlz, and we're hottest in the land because we are the very first of the vaginacore bands.
Except, wait.
Well, there's Fright Wig.
Fright Wig. And
there's the Art Sluts.
the Art Sluts.
The Mud
They were
Women.
first. All those bands.
They were all before us.
What other
They're all
bands? There's-
Vaginacore.
Oh, inflatable boy
Slits.
clamps. Slits. How
The
could we forget the
Slits.
Slits?
Yeah. JJ Noir.
Supremes.
The
Wait a minute.
Go-Go's. Madonna. No, well, I don't know.
Yeah, baby.
I don't know if we should let her in the club. I don't know.
I don't know. She's pretty cute.
Huh? The Mentors. I don't. They're a different
Wait a
kind
minute.
of
Wait a
vaginacore.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Different kind of vaginacore altogether. Supremes.
Yeah, Supremes.
The
they
Supremes
were,
go way back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yoko. Anyways,
So
if you want to join us, gotta do one thing. Just grab onto your vagina.
Wait. It's
Wait,
not
you have
one
not
thing.
one thing. It's to grab onto your
three.
vagina
Yeah.
and shout and
And
sing. Okay, just grab onto your vagina.
Wait, no.
No.
If you want to join us, gotta do three things. Grab onto your vagina and shout and sing. Yeast!
No.
Wait, yeah, what are we talking about? We don't like
yeast
infections.
infections.
What is this yeast
No,
power?
vagina power.
Vagina power.
Okay.
Vagina power! Vagina power!
Thank you. Oh, I said thank you.
From their demo cassette, that was Yeast Power Confessions, recorded live at Gilman Street in November 1987, with lots of input from the audience.
And then on the total other. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say. Also, everybody wasn't standing there with their cell phone recording everything, so there was a freedom to be yourself and to be authentic and to not overthink, triple think, quadruple think. Oh my god! oh my God, what will the future say of this? We were very much in the moment, and it was hilarious. It was also,
and I think, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, that was it.
No, I just love what you said about the cell phones, because not only, like, the point you're making is nobody had to worry about this is going to be posted later and people are going to see it, but also, there's a way in which the cell phone really acts as a barrier between the person observing and, so it's an observation. You're observing. You're not participating when you're filming.
Yeah.
Just the action of putting your phone up like that, all of a sudden you're observing, not participating. And it's just a very different mode. And a lot of times you go to shows now and it's like everybody's there with their phone. And they're not participating in the same way. So I think that's a really great point, Kate.
I mean, sometimes people were sitting there with a little handheld recording device, but that's very different than the phone.
And the way that the phones, like Jane said, when people were yelling out what they put in their vaginas or assholes, they were worried about, or weren't worried about, the 200 people in the room. But when you add in the phones, it can become thousands or millions of people that you have to worry about knowing what you put in your vagina or asshole.
And that was a freedom we had then that we didn't even know that we weren't always going to have,
Yep.
And then on the total opposite spectrum of Yeastie Girlz, like, audience interaction, we had the incident where we did the rubber ducky thing where Joyce sang the rubber ducky song, and Cammie and I were pretending to hump actual little rubber duckies on stage, and when we finished that, there was absolute silence. Like, nobody knew what to think about that. It was just like, what just happened?
My God.
I think
everyone was absolutely paralyzed.
we pushed a new boundary that day, didn't we?
Poor rubber duckies.
I think, Jane, your performance of that was very realistic, and I think people were standing there going, "Did she just come?"
No, I did not. But yes, that's what I heard later, was people were a little confused by that. Like, no, it's a performance.
So
we were fully clothed also, by the way. We did not remove any clothing. I think it was also the juxtaposition of something very childhood related.
I know, right?
That freaked people out.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, it wasn't about, but it was the farthest thing from anything predatory, right? There was nothing predatory. There's nothing predatory about kids exploring their sexuality, on their own. And, there's like nothing weird or predatory about that, but people get freaked out,
100%. Oh my God.
We had some big ovaries. I'll just say we were pretty brave.
Definitely.
The audacity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that perform. I don't remember which one was which. I know that those two that we just described were at Gilman, but also at Gilman, I don't know which one of these it was where we did that. We created the whole doorway where we took these pieces of foam and covered them in pink fabric and like fake fur, and so we made it so you had to push your way through basically a vulva to get into Gilman Street. So that was, we actually brought like a tactile arts component to our performance for that show, and that was fun too.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So
Colin, are you rethinking why you're talking to us now?
Definitely not. I have absolutely no regrets about arranging this interview. And there are plenty more Yeastie Girlz tales to come in the next episode. So stay tuned to hear about their collaboration with Consolidated, which turned one of their songs, You Suck, into a dance club hit, and it even caught the ears of someone in the Aerosmith camp, and they used it to pump up audiences before concerts on their 1994 tour. You'll also hear the story of a less legit collaboration that has had the positive effect of reuniting the band and all kinds of other cool shit. Thanks for listening to part 1, and thanks to Kate, Jane, Cammie, and Joyce for the interview. Check out the description wherever you are listening to this for links to find out more about the Yeastie Girlz. They have launched an awesome website, and you can get totally up to date there. And they also encourage communicating with them in the old school style of snail mail.
Kate, can you read out the P.O. box?
Okay, Yeastie Girlz, that's with a Z, P.O. Box 40788, San Francisco, California, 94140, USA.
When I was hanging out at Gilman Street the other day, I met a zine editor, he's a major babe. But before I let my sloppy juices burst, there's something that I gotta say to him first.
I say I wanna fuck you now, but first we better talk
about a little piece of rubber that fits on your cock. The only thing about fucking that makes me afraid
is I don't wanna get pregnant,
I don't wanna get AIDS. And those two reasons are enough for me, so I'm telling you to take responsibility.
You say you used them once before and didn't like the way they felt,
but put a lid on it, boy, right now or else. A lot of you guys have a problem right now. You just want to get laid and you don't know how.
Well, if you want to change your luck and change it fast,
put a rubber on your dick without being asked. Unless you want to sit at home masturbating,
wear rubber every time without complaining.
It's your damn sperm juice that causes all the trouble. Put a lid on it, boy. On the double, there's a whole lot of ways to have sexual fun.
The old in out is not the only one.
You can kiss me, you can suck me, you can finger me too, but you better wear rubber if you want to screw.
You know I'd want to fuck you, babe, a whole lot more
if getting you to wear rubber wasn't such a chore. We're tired of being the ones who have to say, put a lid on it, boy, or go away. You better learn to use them right, make no mistakes, cause we're both up shit creek without a paddle if it breaks.
Don't expect your mom and dad to show you how.
Yeah, it's time to start practicing right now. I'm getting all excited and you ready to erupt, so whip it out, baby, and cover it up. Well, it's the end of this rap and there's nothing else to do, so put a lid on it, boy, and let's screw.
That was Put a Lid on It from the Overreaction 7-inch, released on Lookout Records in 1988. Visit woodstein.ca, that's WOOD-STEIN.ca. You can support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Colin Burrows. Like, share, comment, follow, and support Woodstein Media and this podcast, and have a wonderful day. Check out the next episode for part 2 of the Yeastie Girlz interview.